Today we're looking back at a show I wrapped up about 2 weeks ago, and I want to walk you through the entire planning process, what things look like on site, and what I would do differently next time. 'Cause I'm
already gone. Only got a minute and a half.
All right?
Y'all can do it.
We got to do that
Keep
in order
it
to
going.
match that 35. We're basically getting a $35,000 head start.
Last week's video, I gave you an overview on that same show of being on site, walking around, looking at where front of house was, what the rig looked like, A2 station, all that stuff. And now I want to get into the nitty gritty of what things look like to pull that off. So this is the planning, and the execution, and reflection upon that show. My name is Michael Curtis. I want to help you get great results on your audio shows. So I can't wait to share with you everything that we put together to pull the show off and have a great one. Let's jump right in. We're going to divide up today's video into 3 main segments: the pre-production and planning, the actual on-site experience, and then what I would do differently next time. And we're going to have a few stops along the way within each of those 3 buckets, but that's our general framework. But overall, I just wanted to give you a sense of the entire arc of a show that you get hired for as a freelancer, to know what you're responsible for as a corporate A1. Now, I say corporate A1, but we actually had 2 different bands on this show as well. So there was a lot of things happening, and wanted to show you how we planned well, executed everything well on site, and then still have some room to grow, and want to discuss that here at the end. All right, so let's jump right in. I was hired by Avod 3 Event Production out of Lowell, Arkansas, where I live, and the show is down in Fort Smith, Arkansas. This is the Mercy Gala for the hospital system. So it's a nonprofit banquet. Then they have a band that plays for entertainment in the middle of it, right before dinner or right after dinner, and then there's a party band during the after party where everyone gets up and dances. So that's like the main show flow. We were in a convention center, 300 feet wide, 150 feet deep, and we'll look at the room drawing in a minute, but that's basically the show. So they use a tool called Basecamp to do all the planning. So in here is all the documents, and I get to have conversations with them on as far as what's going on. So all the engineering, I posted here in the audio thread. Here's my system design. Later on, my audio I/O spreadsheet for getting ready for all that. So this is where I interacted with Avod 3 as I was getting ready. And then here comes the show, and then I can aggregate all these assets into one place on one Notion page that I use, so I can quickly access it and I wouldn't have to dig through Basecamp as much. All right, so here were those engineering assets flying by. This was the room drawing that was generated, the latest one. Gives you a sense of the show. Here is the stage, and then the gray right here is the dance floor. So this is where folks are going to be dancing. And here is the face light trusses. And I also have my PA hung off of it right here. We'll see some more pictures of that here in a little bit. And those were my main hangs. I had subs under the stage right here and right here because the client didn't want to see them or get in the way of the dance floor. I couldn't fly them. And I chose right there so they could be in line with this left and right PA, so I could reduce some of that asymmetry in the array. But that's the room drawing. Give us an overview right there. And then the other engineering assets, we had a power plan. So they had a power distro on site, which we could plug into. Had L2130, Sockapex, and Courtesy Edison. So all the legs could be balanced across the 3-phase power. This was the cable plan that detailed out what was going on in the front of house truss, going to the mix position, the mid-stage truss. Anyway, so this is all really well organized and accounted for. This was my audio I/O spreadsheet. I had 2 consoles on this show, 2 M32s, one calling the production M32 that was with me at front of house. Then I also had the band M32, which was at the A2 station. We didn't have enough inputs on a single desk to accommodate everything, so that's how we split it up. So actually during the band segment, which was Mitch Rossell, he opened up for Garth on his latest tool, was really latest tour, and was really great to work with. We'll walk through his rider in a little bit, but I actually mixed from my iPad out in the house while my A2 Cameron did monitors from the same desk. And then during the main show portion of the nonprofit giving segment and the host walking up to the podium and stuff, I mixed at front of house on the desk. So that was that division of labor there. And this was my actual system report and design file that I uploaded. So to briefly walk through that, I had on that truss some HDL 6As here, and here. Hang a 9, hang a 6, two hangs of 9 on the outside, then hang a 6 in the center. CP8's out here wide for these side fills for these tables out here, and then 7 K12 front fills all right here. I don't have subs on this part of the design, but I had 3 KS118s right here and 3 KS18s right here. And this was that center one looking out, but from this loudspeaker report, I could see that 85% of the audience was within a plus or minus 3 dB span, according to this. And it's just the people standing right in front of the front fills, which the main audience wasn't, was a little bit louder, but I felt happy with the way this turned out. The system report gives me the angles needed when I'm in the field, so the pinpoint spot, and just has all that details when I'm actually hanging the array in the field. I just reference the system report and away I go. This was Mitch Rossel's rider, gave me the general stage layout. Mitch ended up not playing electric, just acoustic. And this guitarist had a Kemper, which was nice, so stage volume was low. Again, unfortunately, since we had subs right under the stage, I did hear from Mitch that he had a hard time hearing himself just because he was drowning in so much low end. So when people make fun of you for spending time on a nice cardioid sub array so the town can hear, just know that it matters. It really does. So putting subs in the right spot. Again, I was forced to put them on this stage because I couldn't have them anywhere else. They had to be hidden. I couldn't fly them. But they gave me what I liked here is that they gave me every band member's name. This was an old rider, shocker, right? But the guitarist was, I think, different than their other, or they haven't used that guitarist in a while. But anyway, this was a good feel. I did 2 K12s for each person. The rider, they specified 2 K12s or 2 monitors for the drummer, but he went with a IEM pack, and then same thing with the bass player. He went to IEM pack, so I had to coordinate his wireless as well. This is the rider from Emerald City Band, or that's like the production group, but it's Limelight was the band, and they carried their own rack with them that had everything. I just need to coordinate their wireless and get left, right fill sub into my system. So that's what I'm responsible for. They had their own separate sound check. They had everything set up on the stage, and then Mitch set up in front of them. Mitch struck during dinner or after that, after they performed, before the Limelight band came up. This is my production desk console file. So I saved this middle of the show, maybe a little bit after that. And so I had my 4 channels of RF, my podium microphone, a spare podium microphone at 58, had my playback inputs. I had Mitch's stereo input from the other desk coming in, and then I had that on a DCA and just sent that into the system. And this is the left, right fill sub for Limelight, the party band. The buses and matrices, I had subgroups for my law of handhelds and podium. Then this was for Limelight, the program feed, which I had the precision limiter on to get things nice and loud. Had the de-essers on all my RFs, and then I had the dual leisure compressor standing by for any other like national anthem or whatever vocals. Matrices, I didn't have a system processor, so this is what fed the system. So I had a PA left, right, and that is what fed these outer 2 hangs right here. Is PA left, PA right, and PA center fed this guy, and then PA, and then the front fills fed all 7 of these. They were daisy chained all together. And then I had a sub feed. They were all daisy chained together. And then I had CP8 matrix, which were my outfills right here, and I could bring those down. There was a big long drape line right here, so they were kind of snuck up under that drape is where they sat. So that's our planning, how I got ready for it. So on site, here's the order of operations. We load in and get everything in, and the PM said for this first day of load in, it was noon to 10. I want the entire flown truss to have everything on it and be tested and ready to go. And the stage was going to be set the following morning, and that's when, after it was set, I'll be able to place all my fills and subs and lighting, put some stuff up on the deck, and get all of our other snakes and stuff ran for the band and ready. So priority 1 was to make sure everything was working in the air. So lighting had a lot of stuff to get on the truss. So we were able to prep our HDL6A boxes and have them ready to go before lighting was ready. So we had a little bit of time to wait. So how I took advantage of that time is I just had my 4 stacks of 6 were all ready to go. And I blew pink in every single box. So with that, I was able to go here and I have every single HDL6A in that hang. So stack A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just, took a measurement of the moving. I put a microphone at mid height into the top, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on. And those were all here. And then I did the second stack and did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of them there, matched them against A, and they all look the same. You'll notice that the polarity inversion in all these boxes, so every single box they got from RCF out the gate was polarity inverted. So I tested this against other speakers before, and I've used these on different shows. So all that being said, that was kind of a mix-up, but again, a very simple fix just on the output of your DSP or processor or whatever. So this was the solo, the average of every HDL6A together from every measurement. So I got 24 of those. So that made sure that every single box was working before we put it on the truss and went up in the air, and we had to take it back down and slow everything down. So that was, since we had the time, I chose to do that. And so we tested everyone on the ground. And then once the truss was up to working height, lighting was done, we scooted our HDL6 hangs and got them up in the air. So with that, we got them on the truss. We were able to run a 4-pair snake up from our stage box up. And so that 3 lines of the left, center, and right went into our DL32, which was our stage box that had our outputs from the front of house console. And then before we even had the DL32 up and running, I just used my sound bullet and used the oscillator there to plug into each input of the snake out to each speaker, and then test that yes in the air with its cabling, and that snake was working. So you don't always have to have a generator or your DSP or something working. Having a tool like a sound bullet enables you to test something quickly. So if it needed to go up right now, you at least know that's working. The snake dangles down, then you plug it into your appropriate I/O. So that was really handy to have. So we've already walked through the console file itself, but I built that ahead of time and then tweaked on site. Once the rig was in the air, I tuned it. So I was able to make myself a little island, a little work table with my MacBook there and my Lenovo ThinkPad, one to host Smart and run it to an external display, and then also have the other where I could operate the console control software so I could make adjustments there. So back in the software, here's the tuning I ended up with is across the left, right. So these were the 2 side 9-box hangs. I ended up using a low shelf to take out a good bit of low end because the array size, that's 9 boxes together, and just a little bit on the top end. So you can see here with my placement of microphones, I had an A, B, C, D set up. So just starting at the very back and working all the way to the very front of its coverage. And I have, let's go to the left. So that was the box of 9. I had them right here. And this was post EQ, and that got them to my target curve. Right here followed really nicely, and that's with, here's it without trace normalization. I can lower this one down to match these. And I was really happy with that we were able to, out the box, post EQ, get stuff there. Here's what things look like pre-EQ. And you can see why we needed that low shelf to bring that down, because from 1K, this was a good bit of up tilt, already like a 15 dB up tilt going all the way up to 50 hertz or so. Since I only had 1 drive line per box, I couldn't shade things independently, but just kind of hand I was dealt. But that was the big ticket items, was shaping the low end to not have as much pink shift or tilt up. So that's what I did to the left hang to get it into where I wanted it. Center, pre-EQ, very similar thing. A good bit of low end rise, and that was more than I wanted when compared to my target trace. So I added a low shelf there. Front fills, nothing too crazy, but I was able to use EQ to get them closer to flat and filling a little bit of the rise, knowing that some of the low end was going to be filled in by the rest of the PA. And I also measured at front of house. So when I got there, after the full rig, knowing that, yeah, we got a little much here in the mids and not quite the low end rise we want here after I feathered in subs and all that. But that's the data I got. Again, coherence was not very good because of just how boomy the arena was. I didn't want to run the peak noise generator super hot, but that's the data that I got, and used the output processing on each of these matrices to get there. Get nothing drastic, a low shelf, the center, and then a little bit of low end lift on the sub. Front fill taking out some low end, a little bit of increase in upper mids. Oh yeah, and I also had those CP8s on the sides. So I applied a high pass filter there and took off a little bit of the zippy stuff on the very top. I will finally say across the left, right, the entire mix, I ended up doing 4 dB down at 100 hertz. You can see here that not at front of house, but out in the room, post EQ, this bump right here, I could definitely hear across everything. So I wanted to take that down there at 100 hertz. But otherwise, this system was pretty well behaved, even given the circumstances. I was happy with the way that it sounded. So after I got the system tuned, we tested every input and got ready to go. We had tech rehearsals. So this was the run of show. The PM would call on comm, each different cue. Look, okay, here's cue 101, 102, 103, whatever. I will say the EIC on site ended up handling comm, so I didn't have to do that. It was a combination of free speak plus wired Green Go. So that was pretty cool. It's my first time using Green Go. It sounded great, very easy to use, and free speak was fantastic as always. So we had VOGs. So I had to load, whoops, don't want to alter the original here. So in QLab, I had here a show built out. And so I actually got to pre-record the VOGs with the talent on site. We went to a different room, recorded them. I doctored them up a little bit and then loaded them here in QLab. I renumbered my Q numbers here and did, okay, VOG, all of them were orange here in QLab, and it said VOG dash and then the first few words. So welcome to Charity Ball. So my PM would call that, boom, I play it in the room. And there was also a cool opening sequence where they had this little cello music that played under a lighting move, and then it played a VO, and then it faded out. So I had that programmed. A few more VOGs, and then I had the MCs of the night had handhelds, were real high energy, and I had a little stinger track timed out. So down the same audio line, it would say, "Hey, welcome back to the stage, blah blah blah," and blah blah blah, boom, and the track would hit. So that was fun. Had a couple of those in the hopper. And then I had a walkout tune, and then that transitioned over to the party band. And that's what we had to get going there. As far as the gig itself, ended up going great. The crew worked really well, having to navigate all of the people coming to stage, and some people want a handheld last minute, some people want to use the podium. Worked with that, getting the band ready to go. The Mitch Rochel segment, he sounded great. Transitioning over to the party band. The only thing there is they sandbag sound check a little bit, I'll put it that way, and they sent me pretty hot signals out the gate. So we had to manage gain structure during the first few songs to get that going because they were pushing my PA pretty hard. Anyway, I was really happy and grateful to be on the show and work with all the departments of people pulling it all together. Avathri did a great job. I hope to do it again with them next year. So afterwards, I sent in my invoice, included the overtime from loadout and all that stuff. It's going to get paid, and it was a good time. So lastly, here are the next time notes I had. I said, great show, everyone. Thankful to be on the crew. I would do the exact same PA deployment, except see if we could do a flown dance floor system. So with this, it's a really cool thing. Avathri always at the end of every show has a little post in Basecamp that says, hey, what would you do differently? And everyone posts all this so they can learn from it and do better next year. So with this, with the party band, the K-12s down front I had on stage had to get pretty ripping to get through, the 15, 20 feet of people. And then the main flown PA took after that. It wasn't terrible, but it was pushing them pretty hard. So I thought maybe having like a little separate flown dance floor system behind that would be pretty cool. I was able to get Limelight settled in after a few tunes. They did push it pretty hot, but we figured it out. I want a different sub deployment next year because Mitch had a tough time hearing himself with the low end, and that was building up. We also had a MADI setup I used for the first time. So the M32 had a MADI card that over SDI, we were able to push that into the Blackmagic video switcher. And so all graphics playbacks to me were digital. And then my program feed back into the switcher was digital as well. So that was pretty cool. That's one thing I had to manage, is both having the record feed sounding good and the room sounding good. And then I would see if I can move the NAT microphones, the ambient microphones. At one point, they parked the catering carts right in front of it. And so you could hear all this tinkling, whatever, in front of it with all the forks and stuff, which, you know, what can you do? But that's what I do differently. Anyways, hope just sharing that bucket of stuff I had to figure out and do on the show to give you a sense of what it's like as a real life A1 to figure out a show was helpful. Again, a lot of the resources that I used today are available at the link below, my audio toolkit, so make sure and snag that, including my X32 Audio I/O planner, along with my Audio Mass Survival spreadsheet. My name is Michael Curtis. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.